Have you ever seen a Bible with 88 books instead of 66? The Ethiopian Bible is one of history's most mysterious and controversial religious texts, and we're diving deep into why this ancient book was pushed aside by mainstream Christianity. What you're about to learn might change everything you thought you knew about the Bible's history. The story begins in Ethiopia, one of the world's oldest civilizations, and Africa's only uncolonized nation. This isn't just another country. It's a place where Christianity has roots deeper than most people realize. While many think Christianity arrived here in the 4th century, evidence suggests some Ethiopian tribes were worshiping the Christian God over 3,500 years ago. What makes Ethiopia truly unique is its unbroken lineage. Unlike other African nations, Ethiopia was never colonized, allowing its people to trace their ancestry all the way back to Ham, one of Noah's sons. This connection has been verified by Jewish scholars, adding credibility to Ethiopia's remarkable historical claims. But here's what's really interesting. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, known locally as Tewahedo, is actually the world's oldest organized Christian body. That's right, it's even older than the Catholic Church. When Egyptian traveler and historian Cosmos Indicopleustes visited Ethiopia in the 6th century, he found a thriving Christian nation that was providing refuge to Christians fleeing persecution from other kingdoms. The Ethiopian Church possessed biblical scrolls long before Christianity officially reached their society. These weren't just any scrolls. They included texts from both the Old and New Testaments, plus additional works that no other church possessed. In 2010, archaeologists made an extraordinary discovery. One of the earliest illustrated Christian books ever found, written in Ge'ez, an ancient Ethiopian language, hidden away in a mountain monastery. Speaking of ancient connections, have you heard the full story of the Queen of Sheba? We all know she visited King Solomon in Jerusalem. That's in the regular Bible. But what most people don't know is what happened next. According to Ethiopian holy books, Sheba and Solomon had a son named Menelik, who became Ethiopia's first emperor. Now, before you dismiss this as just another legend, here's something fascinating. In 2012, genetic studies of Ethiopian populations found evidence supporting interaction between Ethiopian natives and Egyptian, Israeli, or Syrian people around 3,000 years ago, exactly when Queen Sheba was said to have ruled. This genetic evidence adds a new layer of credibility to the Ethiopian historical narrative. It suggests that these weren't just stories passed down through generations, but actual historical events that left their mark in the very DNA of the Ethiopian people. Let's talk about why the Ethiopian Bible looks so different from the one most people know today. The Bible's journey to its current form is actually quite fascinating. In the early days of Christianity, there were numerous versions and interpretations floating around. Think of it as the ancient world's version of fake news. There were so many different accounts of Jesus' life that church leaders had to step in. The original biblical texts were written in Hebrew, and the first major translation was undertaken by Saint Jerome, who translated them into Latin around the year 400. His work, known as the Vulgate, became the principal Latin version of the Bible, containing 27 books in the New Testament and 39 books in the Old Testament. But here's where things get complicated. In the 1st century, numerous books were written about Jesus' life and teachings. Many of these were essentially ancient fan fiction, creative works that claimed to be authentic but weren't. Without modern fact-checking capabilities, these fictional accounts spread rapidly through society, causing significant confusion among early Christians. In 325 AD, at the Council of Nicaea, and later in 381 AD at the First Council of Constantinople, church leaders established strict criteria for what could be included in the Bible. A book had to be written by one of Jesus' followers or eyewitnesses, had to be from the 1st century, and had to align with other accepted teachings. But the biggest change came with King James I. In the 1600s, Worried about different Bible versions causing religious conflicts, he assembled 47 experts who spent 7 years creating what we now know as the King James Bible. These scholars were divided into 6 groups, each working independently on different sections of the Bible. The process was incredibly rigorous. These experts had to follow strict rules to prevent personal bias from influencing their work. They used various scientific tools to ensure their translations remained true to the original languages. What's remarkable is that despite working separately, these groups often reached similar conclusions in their translations. The King James Bible's publication in 1611 marked a turning point in religious history. Thanks to advancements in printing technology, it became the most accessible Bible version of its time. This widespread availability helped establish it as the standard biblical text for English-speaking Christians. So why isn't the Ethiopian Bible accepted by mainstream Christianity? The main reason comes down to its additional books, known as pseudepigrapha. These are texts whose claimed authors aren't considered their true authors. The Ethiopian Bible has 81 books in its broader canon, including fascinating texts like the Book of Enoch, the Jubilees, 3 books by Maccabean, the Epistle to Clement, 4 books of Synodos, and many others. Even within Ethiopia, there are 2 versions: the broader canon with 81 books and a narrow canon with 72 books, created under Emperor Haile Selassie. The broader canon hasn't been reprinted since the early 20th century, adding another layer of complexity to this already intricate story. The rejection of these additional books wasn't arbitrary. Church scholars argued that many of these texts were written with questionable intentions, potentially spreading false teachings about Christianity. They viewed these books much like we might view historical fiction today. Interesting stories, but not necessarily accurate representations of historical events. What if I told you that some of the most important decisions about the Bible were made for political reasons, not spiritual ones? The story of the Ethiopian Bible's rejection goes much deeper than religious differences. Early Roman emperors were obsessed with maintaining control over their empire, and religion was their most powerful tool. These rulers weren't just interested in spreading Christianity, they wanted to control how it was spread. Many scrolls that didn't align with their preferred narrative were ordered to be destroyed. Fortunately, some brave priests defied these orders and hid these scrolls, which were later discovered near the Dead Sea in the 1940s. The language barrier played a crucial role too. The Ethiopian Bible was written in Ge'ez, an ancient language that few outside Ethiopia could understand. Imagine having a treasure chest of ancient wisdom, but the key to open it is a language that almost nobody speaks. This language barrier, combined with Ethiopia's unique Christian practices, effectively isolated their biblical tradition from the wider Christian world. But there's more to this story. The Roman Church's rejection of the Ethiopian Bible wasn't just about controlling religious narrative, it was about maintaining power structures. Ethiopia's version of Christianity suggested different power dynamics and religious hierarchies that threatened the Roman Church's authority. The Ethiopian Bible's contents challenged many of the established church's teachings about authority, succession, and religious practice. The political implications were huge. Accepting the Ethiopian Bible would have meant acknowledging that Christianity had deep roots in Africa, independent of European influence. It would have challenged the notion that Rome was the central authority of the Christian world. For the power brokers of the time, this was simply unacceptable. Think about it. If the Ethiopian Bible was widely accepted, it would have meant admitting that Christianity wasn't just shaped by European and Middle Eastern influences, but also by African traditions and interpretations. This would have fundamentally altered the power dynamics of the medieval Christian world. The Ethiopian Bible's significance extends far beyond religious circles. It's becoming increasingly important in discussions about cultural heritage, historical accuracy, and the diversity of early Christianity. Scholars are discovering that this ancient text might hold keys to understanding how early Christianity developed in different parts of the world. The additional books in the Ethiopian Bible provide insights into religious thoughts and practices that were lost to mainstream Christianity centuries ago. What's particularly fascinating is how the Ethiopian Bible's survival challenges our assumptions about historical preservation. While many ancient texts were lost to time, wars, or deliberate destruction, this Bible survived against incredible odds. It endured through invasions, colonialism, and natural disasters, protected by a community that understood its value. Modern technology is now helping to bridge the ancient language gap. Digital preservation efforts are underway to scan and translate these ancient texts, making them accessible to scholars and interested readers worldwide. This is revealing new perspectives on biblical stories and early Christian teachings that were previously unknown to most of the world. The Ethiopian Bible is also forcing us to reconsider what we think we know about the spread of early Christianity. It provides evidence that complex theological discussions and sophisticated religious practices were happening in Africa at the same time as, or even before, they developed in Europe. Another challenge was language. The Ethiopian Bible was written in Ge'ez, an ancient Ethiopian language, making it difficult for outsiders to study or translate. This language barrier, combined with Ethiopia's unique Christian practices, kept the Ethiopian Bible isolated from the wider Christian world. The contrast between Ethiopian Christianity and European Christianity grew wider over time. By the 4th and 5th centuries AD, when much of the Bible as we know it today was being codified, Ethiopian Christianity had already developed its own distinct characteristics and traditions. What's truly remarkable is how this Bible survived centuries of challenges. It endured Muslim invasions, Italian occupation, and even a monastery fire in the 1930s. This survival against overwhelming odds has only added to the mystique and significance of the Ethiopian Bible. In recent years, there's been growing interest in studying this ancient text. Ethiopian churches are working to make their biblical tradition more accessible by translating it into various languages. Scholars are conducting academic studies to understand its unique perspectives and what they might reveal about early Christianity. The Ethiopian Bible serves as a reminder that Christianity's early history was far more diverse than many people realize. It challenges our assumptions about biblical canon and raises important questions about how religious texts are authenticated and preserved. The Ethiopian Bible stands as a testament to Christianity's diverse roots and the complex history of biblical texts. Its survival against all odds reminds us that there's still much to learn about our religious heritage. What do you think about this controversy? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you found this deep dive into religious history fascinating, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing historical revelations.